Okay, welcome everybody to the Conway Select Board Finance and Capital Improvement Committee joint meeting for Monday, April 14th. I'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda to vote to approve the minutes for April 7th.
Feels look good. I'll make a motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Adam, as always. No warrants today. Meetings attended by select board members. Erica.
I had a meeting with GZA and the Pine Hill residents to talk about that contract. Is that Friday? Friday or Thursday?
Thursday.
Yeah. I thought that was a great meeting. Basically GZA is gonna mark the property with residents and their engineer they've hired. Just to get a full perspective of the project. Bucky's coming to comment.
All right.
Oh, read Bucky's last name.
Oh, I know, Sparkle. What a name.
Can I just say, I referred to him as Bucky in the meeting
Yeah.
and his lawyer, or the attorney referred to him as Mr. Sparkle, and I could not decide which was like more appropriate.
Every time he said it, he'd shoot up. Anyway, Elaine, any meetings?
I had a joint school committee meeting on Tuesday and we had school negotiations for Union 38 on Thursday, and that was both the TAs and the teachers are settled.
And all right, I talked to a lot of people, but I don't think I had an official meeting. I always forget.
We had that 50th birthday meeting.
Oh, yeah.
So did you read the minutes closely, by the way?
All right, we have public comment.
Yes, we do have public comment.
Love to have public.
But, so just briefly, just trying to get the two grants underway. The problem tomorrow is the deadline for next month's inclusion in the current, which was a key piece of publicity.
Well, they already have information that came to the newsletter, but I thought you were writing an article.
How can I write an article if I can't give them a phone number to call for people that are interested?
They could always call me. I mean,
Oh,
they
that-
can.
That was the whole purpose, was to set this up so that you are not overly burdened. Remember?
Well, if they've already have the information, so it's up to you if you want to speak with Julia Carroll, who's our chair. About the article. I think that would be good.
You want to get moving.
I understand. I have not heard back from Maya.
Can we chase that down?
I emailed again today.
But that shouldn't stop you from putting it in.
Well, I was concerned about not having anybody to, it's people that would be interested, not having a number to call and get their sign, all that other stuff.
Well, if they call Aaron, I mean, or Adam. Yeah.
Call Adam.
Yeah. We want to,
Just take down their phone numbers and their name or email and say, we'll get back to you. So no.
that was my public comment.
Okay, public.
We all have towards insurance companies.
Well, I mean, that, the pressure's on to spend as much of those grants by the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
I understand, but. There's so much we can do.
Okay, so what we get from that is don't be delayed on putting it in the.
We'll keep on my end.
Mhm.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank
Thank you
you,
to the
Mr.
public.
Cantor. Nobody else online, and no unfinished business, so that means we're gonna move on to new business.
We have quorum.
Do you have quorum? You wanna
Yeah,
open
so
it up?
I can call the finance committee meeting to order. And then I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 7th. Yep. I get a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, was Alan gonna join, or?
He's on
coming
the road,
almost
yeah, so he called because he's a little delayed, but it's usually 6:30, so he should be here by 6:30.
Okay, then if you don't mind, we'll just continue with new business.
Please do.
Okay, discussion and vote to sign the new contract with GZA. What is there to discuss?
Well, nothing really to discuss, but what we talked about with the residents on Thursday. And GCA agreed that there was no need for a contract amendment for this, but basically they have agreed that they will spend a couple of hours walking the property with the residence engineer, with myself and Bernie. Just to basically, make sure that the residents, all of their concerns and Bucky's understanding of the topography and everything. That is all, that basically GZA has that information, picture of what that project entails.
That's where the project entails is it stops at the road.
Right.
Right, that's, and I think we were pretty clear about that, that's still,
I think it's nice of GZA to walk the property with them. I just have my own concerns about. The mindset of the owner whose property is being walked, that the town is gonna do anything on their property, because they're not.
right, and we talked about like a potential, like phase two, this is really just, we have to finish out the GZA contract.
Yeah.
This is the best use of those funds that we had allocated, given the $1 million match or the $1 million grant funds that we can potentially get, if we get this grant application submitted.
I mean, I don't think it hurts to hear their concerns. 'Cause
No,
we have
yeah.
heard their concerns already. It's just, we don't want to set up an expectation.
Exactly, and
Absolutely.
I don't think that there, I mean, we talked about it, like, this project is very clear, like. It's a limited scope that this project has, and that is to, attempt to minimize the effects of overflow of the existing drainage system on private properties. So,
Yeah, I mean, I agree, we should be listening to all concerns and,
And that was one of their
getting them
biggest
involved,
concerns.
right, and getting them involved. I just wanna make sure that we have a deadline. I just wanna make sure that we don't get into a back and forth about. When you get onto private property, the issues on that private property, because then you're gonna go through, okay, what's a reasonable amount of water that comes off the road? And what's a reasonable amount of infrastructure in a resident's property to deal with said water? Right, and because that'll be an argument that will never end, it will never end. So I hope that understanding is there, and I hope they understand also, we're also constrained by the budget. And we're also constrained by what the state has in their infrastructure along 116. You can't build something so large that the infrastructure of 116 can't handle it.
well, and that was one of the concerns, was that even with, whatever remediation we do. The stormwater is still gonna flow into the South River, and that overflow pipe is actually generally underwater.
Right.
Apparently, when we do have these really heavy rainfall events.
Right.
So it's, I mean, my takeaway was that there was kind of a general understanding that this is a larger project, that no one wanted to, let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
That's a good saying.
That we want to take this $1 million, that we have the potential of getting in grant funds. And that, looking forward, there's always a potential for a phase two.
Got it.
But this is, phase one is what we have to be focused on right now.
Okay,
Sounds like it was a trip.
I thought it was I think really the, residents wanted to feel like they were heard. I
Yeah.
certainly heard them, and the GCA seemed perfectly amenable to, doing a site visit with their engineer as well.
and we have someone in here who's affected by all of this as well, who lives in that
Right,
area. Okay, I appreciate you meeting with the
Yeah.
residents. Okay, so if everyone is.
Oh, wait, I should just say
Yep.
that the other, their other ask was that not only do we walk the property with them with GZA, but that they have a chance to look at the final grant proposal before we submit it. With no expectation that they're gonna have any input on that grant proposal, but they will see it.
They can offer input. That
Right,
doesn't mean that
certainly, yeah. No,
we're
I
gonna
think-
base it on what GZA is.
I think
Yeah.
everyone was very cognizant of the timing of this,
Okay,
so.
got it.
They
Um,
really have a deadline.
Right, well, no, there is a,
get back
so I
There's
think,
a
I mean,
deadline,
I wanna make sure that they feel included, they can see the grant proposal, but I I thought I was, there's no expectation that we're gonna alter that grant proposal after you look
I
at it.
know everybody wants it, you know, to make sure that we're spending money the right way. And like you said, a great design, although it might not be perfect for 1,000-year or 100-year storm, is still a good design for what is needed up there.
Right, and GZA, one of the points that they made repeatedly was that you may think you're fixing one problem and you create a whole other problem for another
Open the
resident.
floodgates.
Yeah, so they, it's like, we wanna be
I
cautious
think
and.
we've heard that before.
All right, well, if you all, unless there's any other questions, I'll make a motion to sign to sign the new contract with GCA.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
But. We don't have any more.
I never looked at that one.
And it's very slightly. This is stuff we made sure last week. Like last week.
All right, the next item on new business. And Roy is here, so I'm glad Roy's here too. Discussion and vote to sign the source pass proposal for Microsoft migration in MSP services.
So this is just the formal, after the presentation and Roy pointing out the number of kiosk use licenses, so they've revised it, let me see, so the migration costs, they still have Microsoft in the migration costs, but that's not what's gonna be in the warrant. It's gonna be the 18,900 minus the 48,48 from Microsoft. So the warrant article for the migration itself, which is a one-time cost with the Cisco and their services, will be whatever that amount is, 18,900 minus 4848. That will be a separate warrant article. And then in the town budget will be the Microsoft plus their MSP, but it'll be the different lines. So it'll be contracted services for this amount. And then the software line will have a 4848 for our Microsoft plus all the other items, so. But I think, I
Well,
think we're all good.
I think we all owe a thanks to Roy for catching this
Yeah,
and
that was a good step.
Yep.
bringing this up.
I'm still not 100% convinced they captured everything. I haven't seen the latest and greatest proposal, and I also. You know, the VPNs are kind of hazy. Are they in there?
There is no VPN. People are logging straight in. Now, there won't be a VPN. Because everything's going up to the cloud, so they're gonna, yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
All right, I'll make a motion to sign the source code proposal for Microsoft migration and MSP service.
Second.
All in favor?
I
All right, thank you. I hope I don't butcher this name. Discussion and vote on appointing Jameson, either Laval or Lavalley as a temporary highway department employee. Wait, is Ron coming in for this?
No, because we've had him before. He was hired through Smith Voc when he was actually there. And then when he was done with that, he actually came and worked for us as a temporary for, I think it was June through August of last year, but the year before.
No issues with him?
No, Ron is very happy with his work.
I will make a motion to appoint Jameson. I'll make a motion to appoint Jameson Laval as a temporary highway department employee from mid-May through August for $18 per hour.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Keep it coming back, Jameson. Next on new business is the request to use Blackboard Connect system to elicit candidates for local offices.
Oh my gosh, I didn't print it.
Oh, you have the wrong agenda
I have the
too.
wrong agenda too, isn't that funny? Okay,
Do we
sorry,
need to table
so,
this?
well, no, that request came from our town clerk, who had wanted to know, because we have so few people on the ballot. This time, there's no contested races, and there's, I think, 4 open slots. So she had come to me and asked for permission. I said, well, that's a select board decision of what you can use the Blackboard Connect for. So, to say to people, I don't know, call them up and say, you interested in serving? We have all these openings,
I
so.
don't see anything wrong with that, more information, right?
Yeah, I don't see anything, I mean, I don't have a problem with using it for that, I just don't think it's gonna be very effective, I feel like, I just.
Whatever works, or try it.
If,
Not doing it.
I mean, the message should be, congratulations.
You've been elected.
nominated.
Nominated to the Board of Assessors.
That would be hilarious. You're now on capital improvement.
Well,
But we're writing you in,
I could get Lori to be the one to do the message too.
yeah. I'm sure Laura could come up with a very compelling,
I agree.
message.
Okay, so it's okay with the board if
Yes.
you solicit. Okay, thank you.
All right, last item on new business is to sign post attestation for recertification of the Big Don Chief Bates.
So this is just something that he had to, sorry, I took it out because I couldn't remember that I put it on the agenda properly. All right, so it's the appointing authority who just has to attest to his moral
Is he a
quality.
good moral character and fit for employment in law enforcement?
I guess you could say yes.
The whole box, we can write so much stuff in there.
Discipline and complaint reports, negative.
We had to do this before.
Well, he's finding a lot of things that we never did before. So-
Well, yeah, I mean, this may be something new with the new training and stuff. I don't know. With the
We
new-
never did it for any, but
Yeah.
obviously, I think Don's doing a fine job. Think he's qualified to be a law enforcement officer.
It doesn't say vote, but I'll just make a vote anyway. I'll make a motion to sign post attestation. Attest is so easy to say.
Yeah.
Attestation
Yeah,
is
it's
hard, for recertification of Chief Bates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. While we move on, while we wait on Alan to show up, we'll move on to mail. Stakeholder sessions on sitting and permitting changes to energy facilities. What?
Yeah, here. Oh, is that the stakeholders? Yeah. Oh.
Okay, a bunch of departments invite us to attend a stakeholder session to discuss citing and permitting changes to energy facilities required by the 2024 Climate Act. So that's here, if anybody wants to read it. There's also DPU pole attachments and conduit access on public right of ways.
I don't have that here. That came in online. I think it's in your select board packet.
Okay, I'm gonna look at that later.
Yeah.
Because we did talk about Eversource prior to this. And it was brought up about trenching and putting lines underground. And that's something I feel that the select board many years ago should have done on Main Street. And if they ever do anything on the poles on Main Street again, I would ask that whoever is in the select board at the time, look into burying those lines. So one, you know, we don't have to worry so much about lines going out downtown, but also it's just ugly. It's just ugly. So it would beautify our main street if we didn't have
Well, they were
power.
digging up all those sidewalks and the perfect.
That would have done it then. Yeah.
I think they looked into it and it was like another $1 million or
Yeah.
something.
Oh, no,
That we would have
Well,
to
no,
pay.
then all
$1 million
the
to make it look
They're
amazing.
responsible for everything that goes into. the house.
Right, yeah, so the homeowners would have had to
Because
spend.
we did it when we built our house.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yo, you did bury it.
Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah.
pole is still there, but you don't have
Yeah.
area to do it.
Okay, you wanna go over TA updates?
Sure.
Let's do that.
Not that there's all that much, but actually, can I just add, did you all get the latest copy of the omnibus and the warrant?
Yeah, you
draft
sent
warrant
this
for free cash?
afternoon.
I just wanted to make sure you were able to access it, because I got it done so late in the day that I didn't get copies made, so I was hoping. So I don't have a huge amount, I did meet with Barlow Excavation, up at the transfer station we're looking at getting a quote to finally fix the divots in the back pad of the transfer station. So I'm hoping to get a quote for that soon.
Is that the paving company or is that a separate company?
It's excavation and paving, so he would be doing both, yeah. So, and I understand that they're working in Row soon too on their transfer station, so that's how I got the name, so. But I'll still have to end up doing the 3 quotes, so, but I need to have an
They're good.
idea.
We use them for our drive.
Oh, do you? Yeah, he seemed great, but,
They were recommended by our contractor who built our house.
okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But what I'm waiting for is the quote to come back so that I know whether or not I can do 3 quotes or if I have to do an IFB, so I'm really hoping that, anyway. We will be having our we do an audit for the town every 2 years, we're on a biannual basis, so. Excuse me, we had one for FY 22. FY 24 is coming up and they're starting the week of May, so basically the auditors come in and they spend about a week with Jan and Mike and. Going through all the books and then they write the report on how well we've been doing, so. I'm hoping that with all the changes we've done at the transfer station. That they're gonna be happier with us, at least on that area. MVP 2.0, we had a great kickoff meeting with Ashfield. And, just talking about how the process is gonna work, this is a completely different type of grant than we're used to. And so I put the overview of the process on the sheet there for you, because you spend 5 months developing your core team. The whole point of, well, not the whole point, but a huge part of this is all about trying to engage people who have not been engaged in the process before. So we have somebody called an equity partner who will be helping us try to identify, stakeholders who should be attending this meeting, and we'll be setting up, between Ashfield and Conway, we'll be setting up a team of about 10. It'll be Paul McClatchy III, who's their town administrator, and myself, maybe 1 or 2 other municipal people, and the rest are all going to be community liaisons. So we're going to be looking for people who are interested in being part of this core team. And then, excuse me, basically then you kind of go through a process of, they call it uncovering social resilience and revisiting community resilience priorities. So this is part of where you get into the meat of the discussion with the town about, well, what are the things that the town thinks are really important when it comes to climate change? What do we want to address? But it'll be new people coming in, not necessarily the same ones who've been involved for the last decade or so. And then they come up with what they call a seed project. So the towns can either do one together or separately. They'll probably be together, because that's why we're working together, because we're all in the South River watershed. So we'll see if but that may not end up being what the team decides they want to work on. So we will see. anyway, so I'm looking forward to that, and that's pretty much, oh, I did need to get the board's permission to sign off. Did I have it here somewhere? Just, oh, here it is, it's right behind you. To sign off, you know, the gates down at the transfer station. I've already signed it and had it notarized, but I need your permission. For me to have done that because this is for the release claim for the money from the insurance company to pay waste management or to pay to have the gate put back up. The waste management knocked down, so.
I'll make a motion that our town administrator can sign the settlement and release form to replace the gate at the transfer station.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye, thank you very much.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
We can move on, we have.
Let's
quorum,
move
so,
on, all right.
Alan's lost.
Yep, let's go on to the joint meeting with finance, with the review of the draft warrant and looking into free cash.
You know what I didn't do? Second. Do you want me to call it up on the screen or does everybody have it?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay, all right, hang on a second.
Are you gonna start with the warrant or are you gonna start with the free cash?
Well, I start with the warrant because I did, sorry, let me just find this here. Where did I send it? Oh, has it not updated yet? Hang on, my computer's gotta get up to date. There we go. Because I did number all the free cash articles according to what the article number will be in the warrant, so, yeah.
And are you expecting to vote on the warrant articles tonight?
Oh, no, 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 no.
Okay.
No, that's such a rough
Something else.
draft. No.
Draft.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, why am I not finding this? When did I send it out to you? Yeah, oh, for tonight's meeting, there you go. And half of the warrant is the
The FERCog.
the
charter.
FERCog, yes. Thank
Is
you.
there any way that we can, I mean, I guess we really do have to make that available to everyone.
Yeah.
It's-
I know,
I can sum it up in 2 paragraphs.
it's a big charter change, so let me just.
Well, just because it's not. that much charter change. I mean, it's like, it's just.
Okay, get back here, sorry about this, I should have had that lined up. Okay. Got a little bit. Alrighty, so, all right, so obviously I didn't put the article numbers in there because the formatting drives me crazy when I'm adding and subtracting and trying, so I'm waiting till the end. But obviously to hear the reports is Article 1, our budget is Article 2. Article 3 is every year to vote the salaries. So here we go, Article 4, which on the free cash, as you see, is, and so what I did is I just took everything that I'd heard all of you all discuss, things you wanted to do, and I put them all in there. So that was 100,000 to put into the grammar school capital stabilization fund. Especially on the expectation that the funds are gonna be depleted by the boiler replacement.
Doesn't it make sense for us to talk about free cash first?
I think
Maybe it
so.
does.
Well, it's up to you, however you wanna
You
do
know,
it.
all of these
I think,
following articles come. are free
yeah, let's
cash.
look at free, let's look at the chart.
Sure. Oh, okay, hang on then. All right, the question is that sharing? on the building? I guess so. You know, I'm gonna stop sharing again just because. Okay. Yeah, a little bigger, all right. So the first one was well, that's our starting amount, right?
Right.
Oops. Sorry about that. So the first one was for the grammar school, then we've done in the fire truck annually. Ambulance stabilization is new because they really need now to buy a new ambulance, so it kind of came up this year. You all talked about creating a new highway stabilization account. Then there's the excavator, the tractor. The extra money that needs to be put into the police detail to cover, because the monies don't always come in that quickly. I was told I could reduce the OPEB down to $1,000 just to show that we're,
Told by who?
Mike, our accountant.
Okay.
I'm happy to put in whatever numbers you all decide. I'm
It's
just
been like 10. It's been like
20.
Yeah.
Normally
quite a
20.
bit higher.
Yep. Then we have the highway garage note, the reval, and then the IT. Oh, there's the number that I was saying, it's the 141
Mhm.
or 14,151. So,
Well, some of these are optional and some of these are
Right.
not optional.
Correct.
So why don't we like tease out the
sure. absolutely.
non-optional ones and then see what the balance is? The other discussion I'd like to have is us maintaining a free cash balance in the town of 3.5%, which is about 250,000. So that should be a goal that we strive
Yeah,
as a bottom line.
I've been wanting that for a while, that we have a set,
Yeah.
not ceiling, but a set.
Percentage,
Percentage that
Budget.
we keep in there, minimum,
Yeah.
the minutes.
de minimis, yes.
So highway garage note is not optional.
Correct.
Revaluation is not optional,
IT migration is not.
because that's what we just voted on.
Police detail, we did change that, play with that number a bit. You still need money in the room.
OPEB is in that by law, so that's not an option.
But that's nice.
It- I just, my question on that one is, we put 10,000 in the past,
20.
20,
Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
was 20.
yeah. What's the general, I mean, we know this is, every year we have the same discussion, we're well underfunded. I guess it doesn't really make much difference. Does anybody have any thoughts about whether we should put in more money or less money?
So why was Mike okay with such a drastic reduction this year?
Honestly, there's only one town in the whole Commonwealth that has fully funded their OPEB. And I think the thought was that as long as it's seen that we're making a good faith effort every year to get to that point. But I think it's well over $1 million, right? It's like,
1.2 or something.
Yeah. so,
That's why.
Our OPEB.
Our OPEB liability.
long-term OPEB obligation,
yeah.
based on
But that's
a standard set of assumptions.
But it changes every year.
It does change every year because interest rates change every year and, people moving out through the rolls and went back on.
My sense is put the minimum in that it takes to maintain us in good standing.
Especially
I don't
if the
know.
accountants say
Yeah,
so.
I mean,
I don't know that 1,000 is enough, but maybe
Mike
5
said
or
it.
7 or something. And the reason is, I've expressed this before, this is pay as you go in a sense. And yeah, sure, the state, if if our federal government was required to do with Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid,
Right,
what they're asking us to do for OPEB, forget about it.
right.
And so I'm not, maybe it helps Massachusetts bond standing, bond rating altogether, but I just, my feeling is put as minimal and as possible.
Yeah, so I would say stick with what our accountant's telling us.
Yeah, me too.
So if we add that police detail into the requirement, then we're up to almost 84,000.
and where did that number come from for the police detail?
Our accountant. He looked at all the details that, yeah,
Okay,
the amount in the past year, because there's been so much more work in the past year.
so this is what we pay out, but then we eventually get that back.
We pay more than that, much more than
No,
that.
we do,
Yeah, yeah. But we're kind of a pass-through,
right, yeah.
so, yeah, so he was like, this is the amount I want to have sitting in there so we don't go into deficit.
I'm gonna ask a very dumb question. Why are we even looking at all of this as part of free cash? Because the fundings can come
From capital
from
stabilization.
stabilization funds.
It can, our stabilization funds aren't that big either. I mean, so it's up to, that's completely your call. I'm just kind of showing how, this is how I've done it for the last 3 years, and we kind of go through free cash first. I want to say we have just over 200,000 in, is it highway? About 240 maybe in I'm sorry, in capital, and about 240 in the grammar school, maybe. I'm trying to remember, and then the general, so we only have like about 600,000 or 700,000 in all of those, so if you want to take out, yeah, but I was kind of thinking you were looking to build up too.
Well, this first, I mean. We already know 5 line item there, 5 and 6 are just continuing to add to the stabilization for. The pumper and the ambulance,
Mhm.
right? So that is what it is.
So is the school fund.
Yeah,
Right,
So I did speak with Mike too about other sources. Where else could we, I mean, you can just put it in there and add it to the tax base. That's another option. It doesn't have to come from a stabilization fund. That's a choice of what language we'll read in the warrant. And how you decide to, but it would increase the tax base.
Well, that's not
yeah,
popular.
we do not want to do that.
So what does that leave at free cash right now if we take out all the non-optional items?
Ah, sorry, I'm not used to working on a screen like that. All right,
But it was 300, whatever that was, 84.
are you looking at just these that you
Just,
want?
yeah, so if that's what that's non-optional.
It's 84,000, 83, 85.
what's a reserve?
What's 3.5%?
Yeah, so, well, roughly 2.5, 200,000 as an ending balance.
Oh,
So if it's only these 5 right here, then your balance is still 528,763.
If we want to get that around 250. like- If not gonna have-
So, do we, do we have any estimate? Of, I forget what it's called, receipts from excise and. Dog license and all that stuff, are we using this year's as an estimate for next year?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Sorry.
Are we using this year's receipts for the, not the revolving, but I'm thinking the excise tax, new growth, well, no, new growth is another deal, but in other words, the assumptions that we're gonna make moving forward, we base it off of what we have this year?
The assumptions of how much free cash we'll have next year?
Well, no, if, like, auto excise, that goes into the.
Yeah, the revenues.
Right, the revenues, so
Revenues.
I did speak with Mike about that, the DLS had come back with that
Right.
chart for us, and he agreed to up it to the amount that of the next year. It won't be 234,000, I think was the amount for revenue, estimated revenue. He's upping it, but it's not by much. It's not by much.
But it's almost the free cash now. The free cash goal. So,
Correct. It is. Yeah, you're right.
mhm.
It is.
Well, that's good news, maybe.
Well, and you also, I guess I'm not sure what the goal is of having the free cash be the 3%, because you do have your general stabilization, which wasn't that the one that was supposed to be about 3%? So,
It's just a cushion. It's a cushion.
no, right, yeah, but I'm saying between the general and the free cash, is there a reason for free cash to be considered
General and free cash, is there a difference?
Different.
One is a general stabilization,
Stabilization, but that requires a town meeting vote, right?
to put, not to put it into, to take it out,
There we go,
yes.
speak of the devils, conversation for you.
Jeez.
We're talking about the 3.5% free cash balance that we are proposing to maintain for the town.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness, sounds good, yeah, free cash, you get more.
Spend less.
Oh, that's a good way. I was just reminding that our estimated revenues come close to the 3.5% free cash flow, which is not a bad thing. Of course, they can
But we're
fall
not,
short, or they can.
we're not budgeting.
Mhm.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe we're thinking it's gonna happen, but we're not showing it on paper.
Right, at the
And
moment,
it's not reflected in the warrant.
right, that's right. And it rarely it may be in the text mark, the report. Might be in, but it's never something we put in.
So if we funded everything, it's almost $650,000,
And,
which is more than our free cash.
right.
Right, we're negative 35,000.
And,
I'm sorry, how much is the general stabilization right now?
I'm not sure, I think it's somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000.
Okay, stabilization, all told is how much, 700,000?
Let me see if I can find it. Bring it up, so we have that. Number.
In other words, what's the best practice in terms of? Okay, so 3.5% for stabilization fund? Is that right?
I don't remember I personally think that it's more important to have it in free cash, readily accessible cash.
Yeah.
So MMA suggests, maintain a free cash balance, a free cash and stabilization fund balance
Okay.
of no less than 5%.
Okay.
Total or in each
No, equal together.
to total,
Yeah.
okay. So that's where you came up 2.5, because 2.5 in each.
Well, with 3.5, and well, yeah, I
Right.
wasn't thinking about the stabilization.
All right, so here's the stabilization funds as of 2/28. General's 292. Ambulance 340, a capital's 220, grammar 236, fire truck 313.
So we need a little over 350,000 if we're gonna be at 5%.
Oh, if we're going to 5%.
Yeah, I mean, budget 7.131, let's say. you
So
know,
then
just
we
a little
only
over.
fund half the things.
We need what, another $100,000, less than that? 70,000?
More than that.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. What was the question? If you
If
want to
we have
get,
292 in general stabilization,
yeah,
then we need. With that plus whatever to get to about 350. They have roughly 5%.
uh-huh.
And not remove any of it at town meetings, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's the other, right.
That's the
right.
other thing, but you know, we haven't touched general since I've been here. We have not done a thing with general stabilization.
Well, so we're using these stabilization accounts as basically savings accounts towards specific.
Large item purchases,
I'm sorry,
large item purchases.
large item purchases.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the time comes to make that large item purchase, and let's say we empty that out,
Mhm.
the stabilization is gonna drop. Okay,
Yeah.
so, which, I'm just processing, okay? So if the stabilization drops, well, we have that brand new thing, then we can start building up towards it. Now, it's not just one thing, you have several items that pull, so it gets kind of confusing, but I think that it may not be necessary to have a level stabilization. It maybe we need to get used to that. It goes up and it goes down, and it goes up and it goes down.
Well,
Or is
the
that,
problem with a lot of these stabilization accounts here, especially the capital item accounts, is that they were never created until it was too late.
Mm.
Right? So you're dumping 100,000 into a stabilization fund for a vehicle they thought was gonna cost 350 when they started it, that now costs $1 million, and didn't start dumping into that until they were like, oh, we're gonna need one in 3 years. So once, let's say the pumper truck, once that stabilization fund is enough to purchase a new pumper truck, that stabilization fund shouldn't go away. They should start putting in
Right.
25,000 a year.
yeah, right, I'm not saying it goes away, I'm saying that it doesn't, you could, what they used to. I mean, if you know, let's say you're gonna build up to what you're gonna buy in 5 years, okay? So let's say you're 100, 200, you're at 500,000, okay? Well, sometimes you go 300,000 from stabilization, 200,000 from free cash
Right,
and this stuff.
yeah.
And the goal there was to kind of, you know, to kind of not
Soften
deplete
them
the
up.
stabilization. I don't know, I just don't know if we're thinking about it correctly, is my point. And I don't know what's the right way to think about it.
I think this is the start of it, is to say, we shouldn't deplete either the general stabilization fund or free cash beyond a certain limit.
Yeah.
And that's where we look at, then we're gonna look at the articles, and if we go beyond that limit, then we need to make some hard decisions. So that's the way I see
Do
it.
we have an ordinal ranking of the
We were just working on
funding
it.
choice? One through?
Yeah, that's been working,
Yeah.
looking at what was actually required and what was optional.
Wants versus needs.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, so we, at the top, we've got,
There was
what's
a-
highlighted is what we decided was required,
Required,
yeah,
okay,
this year. And then
$1,000 was open.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we've had free cash, actually the main reasons, two main reasons, but free cash higher than what we had originally budgeted was estimated local receipts have come in consistently higher, especially for the last few years. And also other assets like market rate increased to this time. So we get that tax review of that. And those are the two main things, so we don't, and I don't really understand why other assets is growing so much. So I'm kind of flying blind there in terms of like, how is that, what's the understanding of what's going on in the town? I mean, other assets increased by 75% from last year, this is the year before, which assets, other assets. According to the Department of Revenue, it's gone from 30 million, like 7,500, 40 million to $75 million. Other assets, yeah, we don't know what that is. Estimated local receipts, you know, that follows the economy, so my thought is if we want to consider having a special town meeting at the end of the calendar year, depending on the outlook and the funding picture from the state, because the state's doing what we're doing right now. Everyone is.
Yeah.
That maybe we can, I get all highlighted items, I think are beyond question, but the others we can figure out in order ranking what we need to do.
Well, and don't forget the amounts that I put in there were just amounts that, if I can put any amount you want me to play with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the other thing that's not clear to me is this 5% recommendation. I don't know, that must include all the stabilization. In which case, which case, we should have enough money between all of our stabilizations, right? I don't know, so
General with,
not just general, but we've got fire truck and we've got other,
five stabilization.
yeah.
Holding the sixth.
The other thing I should mention is that I don't know that, the ambulance department is gonna be ready to put anything on this warrant. It may require a special town meeting. Free cash gets certified in September, October. So it is possible that we could have another meeting then and talk about ambulance, just bringing that up as a possibility.
Yeah, that one's- I'm thinking this year, more and more, a special town meeting probably would be a good idea. Given all the budget uncertainties heading into.
So when you say they won't put something on the warrant for town meeting, you mean a request for vehicle purchase?
Right, well, for more money to get to the amount they need for the vehicle purchase. They thought they had enough, but it's not gonna be enough, so.
So in
they
addition to
had,
the
what was it,
$100,000
$340 now?
that we're proposing equipment stabilization,
I'm sorry?
in addition to the $100,000.
He's saying you were still gonna have on the article, put 100,000 into the stabilization fund. That's not Conway.
Well,
I'm trying to understand what you meant by they weren't going to put a warrant, something on the
oh,
warrant.
right, because you'd have to take from the ambulance, I got the wrong one, you'd have to take from the ambulance, stabilization fund, so there would have to be a warrant article that said,
So, yeah, that would be a request to purchase a vehicle using
correct,
stabilization.
and to take it from the ambulance
So
stabilization.
you're saying that we would, on one hand, be voting to put money into the stabilization fund, and on the other hand, vote to use those funds to.
I only put it in there because I knew there was gonna be an amount, was gonna have to come from somewhere if they wanted it on this warrant. So the wording of the warrant would probably just be, we'll take 100,000 from free cash. And this money, from stabilization, although I might have to do it in two separate ones
You
because
have to
one's a
do it
three,
two separate.
one's a 2/3 vote, and one's not,
But you don't know if they're ready to.
But I don't-
put
I don't-
the ambulance purchase on the warrant.
I do not anticipate they're gonna have that ready for
Or
by the time we need to
Well-
publish this warrant.
Oh, yeah, they won't know the numbers. but you're saying-
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
so there's another argument, oh, I guess, no, we can't, because they can't. Then we need a special town meeting.
That's what I'm saying, is that it might end up being a special town meeting for the ambulance.
Yeah.
Well, what if you adjust the numbers on the free cash chart to get us?
Yep.
Down to.
Yeah, that's
so
what
we
I was,
have
I was
200,
saying.
like just knock everything down to 80, like all those hundreds down to
Okay.
80, what happens?
Well, okay, so the highway excavator, I mean, you can knock it down to 80, but,
Well, no, I'm just talking about just these stabilization. funds.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
The first year I was here, I took it down to 17, that wasn't.
What about the school too?
I'm sorry,
Do you wanna hit the school too?
I did,
Well, I'm, yeah, I'm
First
just,
one.
yeah,
yeah, it's 80,000.
Oh, okay.
so that leaves us, that's not anywhere near 3%.
You wanna see what it is if they're all 50?
Yes.
We don't need an excavator.
So Chris, so for highway stabilization, since it's a good fund.
Yeah.
It was just sort of opening the fund, so to speak. And we don't know if and when and how it's going to be used, right?
Yeah, and there's the potential it might not even be needed for what we wanted it for.
So my own thought is to make that a very nominal amount of money just to get it open. The other ones have demonstrated need that everybody.
Goes down to 25.
Yeah.
Closer.
We have no way of knowing when we have the estimated local receipts. We only get that number at the end of the year. The state doesn't give us any mid-year estimates.
It's Mike who does the estimates and tells the state how much he's estimating.
Might give us any kind of estimations.
He has already told me, I'd have to find his email, but it's not going up too much more. I want to say it's like 245 or something as opposed to 234. It wasn't a big, or 259. It wasn't that big a jump for estimated local
Comes to
receipts.
this year versus-
Yeah,
So 2.5% is 170.
okay.
I mean, that, if you add that to the general stabilization fund, we have, that gets us well over the 5% mark.
And I assume there's no other funding sources for excavators or tractors.
You could take it out of the capital stabilization. You absolutely could. Let me go back and
Cause I mean, that's what I would say. We should be taking it out of
Where
capital.
was
It's a
it?
capital purchase.
oops. There it is.
280.
So capital is 220.
So we should put, we could put both of those
Yeah.
from capital stabilization.
Okay.
So zero those out. Look at that.
I mean, that is kind of the point of.
It is. That's totally the, it's the problem is, you know, the vote, but.
Yep.
I mean, we have to.
Is it gonna make any difference to anyone whether we're voting it out of free cash or not? It's gonna be,
Oh, it's the requirements. of the
oh,
board.
okay, oh, that's.
There are
2/3.
There are
Yeah.
2/3 of it.
That's right, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
So I could put these back up again if you want to try
Yes.
for
Yeah, like
75?
75.
Oops, 750.
That fixed the problem.
Whoops.
I mean, you're getting there. And then I'm sorry, and general is 280,
292,
292, and where do we need to be at
about 350.
total?
Well, it's 5%. That's the minimum recommendation.
Yeah,
So we're there.
we're there, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
That
I
all
think this
seems
should have always
reasonable.
been the practice, and I think we should do this going forward, especially with the uncertainty of not knowing what we're gonna receive
Yeah.
from government.
In chapter 9.
Yeah.
That's very reasonable.
Being good stewards. This is what it's about.
So this would be our current thought, but we're not voting on it.
And so if everyone's aware, or we did write a plea to McGovern about one of those items that we can have our fingers crossed, but more than likely, don't bet on it, but
Yeah,
you never know.
I also did send Senator Mark a list of ambulance, fire truck, you know, everything that we were, grader, all the stuff that we need just to,
And our highway super has a
Things are
good
so
idea.
expensive.
Well, our highway super has a good idea about that, where it would have to come out of these funds. So. It would be a town vote though.
it would be, yeah.
Yep.
Well, vote it down, you're not allowed to ever complain about the road.
Yeah, if you live on
So
gravel.
If you vote no, you're never allowed to complain.
I'll say that, I'm like, freaking.
It's good.
Yeah.
Well, did you want to tell us the grader, or do you wanna go through the?
Oh, yeah, so are we good on free cash? I think this is a good, I think I like this a lot better.
Yeah.
Oh, I can take this out because they're all required, right?
John, I'm glad you brought that up, because I've been saying that for a while too. Have a purse. Okay, so do we want to just talk about capital item requests first and then go on to the warrant? I mean, there's not much to say on the capital item request aside from what we're gonna talk about with the grader. Is that, our highway super believes that he can get a very serviceable used grader for about 200. Which is substantially cheaper than a new one, which would cost close to $500,000 at this point, maybe more.
What's he gonna do with the one?
That's a good question. We're gonna have to ask.
I thought you said he was trading it, and there's that 120 was a net.
Oh.
You might not be able to trade it if he's getting.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll definitely find out on that, but it would be to use the funds that
Well,
we have
because
left
my
over.
favorite question there would be, how did you get to the 120 that was on? request.
Oh,
For the
that's not for the
excavator?
grader, that's
No,
for the
that's-
excavator.
Oh,
Yeah.
excavator.
Yeah, and then he would sell the old excavator, yes.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the grader's
Under-
definitely, yeah.
Well, I will tell you this, because I had this, excuse me, that I put out this query to everybody, which is everybody adding in contingencies because of the tariffs, do we know? And so Ron said, well, I didn't put in my quotes to capital, I did not put in for the trade-in value. So that's his buffer right there, in case it comes in higher, you just don't, you know, anyway.
But it would be to use some of the funds from the July storms.
Mhm.
Which makes sense because out of 64 miles of our road, I believe 24 are gravel. And they were all made work after the floods, so it would be to go, obviously, to help, not only fix those, but maintain those roads.
That makes total sense.
Okay, so I hadn't put that on the draft warrant yet, but because I just got it tonight, it's before you. Somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know where it went, so anyway,
And then, sorry. Go on.
no,
Oh, and then the other capital items are the ones we already spoke about, the grader and the tractor. There were originally 4 requests, we approved 2.
How much
So
is
those are the
left
only
in
two
the,
that are gonna go on the warrant.
What's that?
Those are the only two that are gonna be on the warrant.
Correct.
Yeah.
How
But
much is left in the storm fund?
it's about 400,000 now. So, and originally he had been planning to spend the rest on basically on gravel.
materials,
On
yeah,
materials, but because the need for the grader is so, you know, mind you, he still won't even get it until who knows when,
Oh, yeah.
because if we were allowed to do this, we would still have to put out an IFB or an RFP to get a used grader, you know, so it's gonna be a while before it comes through anyway, but even if it passes at town meeting.
so it'd only be those, the excavator, tractor, and then the grader. Pulling the funding from the flood fund. So,
That, I think I suggested that. If we look at, we can do it.
so we go on to. Unless there's questions on that, we can go to the draft warrant.
Okay, well, that's where we are, so there's the bottom line for Article 2, which is the bright spot shining star so far. The 1.1%, which is, last year was 2.96, so.
Great.
Really?
I know, you know, it's because of the schools.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
See the
that's-
schools?
The frontier.
Look at this, yeah.
Yeah.
It's Frontier and no vote,
Yeah,
I mean, sorry, no Smith Oak. So it's negative 161 for the schools.
Yeah.
They were down, but general fund is up. And I'm sorry, this does not include the COLA. Yeah, I didn't get there. I haven't, you haven't voted on it yet, so I didn't put it, you know, I haven't smushed the columns yet. But anyway,
So that 1.1% is without COLA.
without COLA.
I would hope it wouldn't go up too much, it would still be
It's like
2.
25,000, so.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
gonna
I guess we
be-
don't-
yeah, it's not gonna be bad. Okay, so we've got the
75.
75, yeah, I'm not gonna do it on this one, I'll do it when I
Yeah.
get back, but yeah, so 75 for the grammar school,
75 for the truck, 75 for the ambulance,
yep. And then 25,
25 for the.
we're creating,
Yep.
creating a new highway stabilization, and then
Oh, this number sounds so much better.
25, yeah.
How can anybody have a problem with that?
You'll see.
I know, I'm joking,
These don't
for
change,
being ironic.
that doesn't change.
So this amount right here is this is why the ambulance always tells us it's 25,000 in Article 2 for their budget. Their actual budget is 25,000 plus this number, so. Oops, and this is, I gotta fix this one. So, you know, I just had asked you all to authorize using more money out of the transfer station revenue fund, which it's a nice fund to, you know. But the limit had been $10,000, so the language here is actually gonna be changing it to $20,000. Of course, you can't spend more than what's in there, but at least in any given year, that will give the town the ability to use all the transfer station revenue to fix the stuff at the transfer station. So I just went over that with Mike today. What's next? There's the 1,000 OPEB. I will double check with Mike and make sure that I heard correctly, but $100.
And 100,000.
I said 100,000.
We could always put in more next year. if we can afford it.
Well, yeah, that's. And there's the free cash debt service, which we need to do. It's just this language we have it every year.
We have notes about this.
Yeah, we have notes about this and the reval work and the Field Memorial Library. So there's the new one about, oh, and I have a different number there from what was in the other one, so I have to make sure which one is correct. Because they've changed the Microsoft cost a couple times, so.
It's still 14.
Yeah, it's still 14 something. Here's one that, you all will, so we have a fund, a special revenue fund called Small Cities, and I think I mentioned this in my TA update. Okay. So this is the article that Mike proposed for open space. If the Select Board and Finance Committee approve of the idea of putting this warrant article on for town meeting, that they would take the whole of that amount. It's basically just legally reallocating it so that open space can use it to finalize the open space plan or use it to implement it.
And that's just $43,000 we have sitting in this account.
We have sitting in, and I will, just to full transparency, that you all could also decide that you're gonna close that out and you're gonna use those funds for something else.
Like free cash.
Like,
transfer to
well,
free cash.
Yeah, you, if you closed it out, then it would close out
It
the
would
free
go to cash.
cash. So, yeah. You could decide to put in a smaller amount, they could have so much out of it and you do the rest of free cash. So that's gonna be one to think about how you wanna.
Well, this fund was the original purpose of having it.
We can't find any paperwork. This is the problem. And the understanding from open space was the former town administrator said, oh, you can use that for anything you want for open space, which. So that's why there's a bit of a tug here, because something was promised that should not have been promised. And, new sheriffs in town, and we're like, I don't have the authority to do that. I can't tell you, you can just use something that I have no paperwork on.
But is open space expecting, I mean, do they know that this is money that's sitting there that they?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. They have emailed me, and asked that this be put on, so. But I just wanted to be transparent about everything that's going on there, so you all can make your decisions about what should go on the phone.
Have they made an argument for needing that level of funds?
There is an awful lot of work in the open space plan that definitely needs to be done, and there's no funding behind it. So now I haven't seen any kind of budget,
Right.
line item budget that says we're gonna do it. I've seen general, we'll use it for this, and
The town, they have a plan, have a development plan, a needs plan, to space recreation.
Yeah, so they've actually done this twice. I want to say the first one was in the current plan, it's like a 10-year plan. So it's a huge book that we have for open space. So, I mean, and that's another thing I could go back and say, could you give us more of a detailed budget? However.
Yeah.
That's what I
I mean, at the town meeting, we're gonna wanna know.
Yeah.
We're giving that 43.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
Okay.
if they don't have a plan, then put it in cash. They promise them everything.
Or keep it here for now, too.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean.
Have
Yeah.
you gotten grants, this leverage grant money or anything?
I don't know. Let me see if I can just find the email so I can at least read to you what it was to be used on. Okay. Anticipated uses include mowing, invasive plant control, renovations for pollinators and planting at the Bigelow and South River Meadows. Invasive plant control and renovation for pollinators at other town properties, maintenance for new projects, educational programs on habitat improvement.
how long do you wanna give them? It's kind of unfair, because you've got 2 weeks to come up with.
I mean, what I could say, there is this plan, and I could say, just take the table of contents and give a budget amount for each, I mean, that kind of,
All right.
you know, I mean.
Yeah,
As long as they're not coming up with something just to spend money.
right.
And that it's part of a prior plan that they could, were wondering how to fund and now they know how to fund. It shouldn't be, we have 43, we
Right.
need to spend 43.
It'd be ideal too, if this money could help them. Like, it's part of the-
Well, so-
Yeah,
That's true. That's
Yeah.
very
if
true.
they could
Yeah.
put that in there.
That's a really good point. That they could use that funding to leverage grants that have a match.
They haven't.
Well, if that's the case, under the town administration line, there's already 18.5 in grant match funds. So, you know, if you wanted to make sure, which could be used for any grants that are coming through that need a match.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So,
It just seems like a lot of money to just give to the open space without some like,
Definitive
yeah.
plan,
a thick
yeah.
plan with it.
mhm. Okay, what's next here? Oh, this is funny. Because we've had this in here every year, and then I happened to notice this year in the bylaws, there's a bylaw that says. The select board may accept, apply for, accept, blah, blah, blah. But Donna said to keep them both in there.
Okay. We did that last year, right, for the past couple of years, I think we've had this.
We've had it in there.
Yeah, and we have a couple that are
And then
just
I
like.
didn't realize the bylaw already, but she said, yeah, well, at least this way, you know, no matter what,
Yeah,
you all are allowed to apply for it.
You don't wanna go
Um,
and think of that.
Okay,
That's a CYA, that's CYA.
yeah, so there are,
Lawyer. Yeah. no.
So my question about this is, can we just for the sake of expedience at town meeting, can we just combine all of those?
oh, right, you wanted to
into
put the
one
annual
article
ones, yes, thank you.
And
Yep.
say X amount of money to pay prior fiscal year bills, instead of voting on each individually?
Oh, I think you have to do the prior year bills individually because,
Really?
yeah, because it's gonna come out of different places.
Oh,
Yeah. But you wanted all the language that's like. We do this every year. You wanted them all in one section.
yeah, I think,
Okay.
yeah, but
$40,000 every year. Right? And 40,000 every year towards a. Part of your encumbrances.
It depends on,
No, you mean the reserve fund?
We've done 40,000.
That's the reserve fund, yeah.
what we're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about here is if we want to pay bills that are due.
which we've done, like, I think last year we had one that was like, I don't know, $1,600 or something, but there was only one, and now there's like 3 warrant articles for 3 different bills, and one's for 150. And is that a question for Mike, whether we have to vote them individually if they come out of?
I actually went over
Different
this because you can see the 4/5 majority. He was the one telling me that. Actually, the 150 is 2 bills for 75 that coming,
Okay, so, yeah,
that they didn't get to me in the mail last year.
Yeah.
For
4/5.
I think, wasn't it?
4/5.
Yeah, last year, remember I said, do we want to pay these bills that we already owe or pay late fees and interest by not paying these on time?
We don't pay these or.
No, I
I know, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, but I'm just thinking, like, if we could just, vote on one warrant article instead of 4 for such paltry amounts of money, but. If that's not.
I,
possible,
I might be
understand.
able to put these two together and
Okay.
have 2 of them, because there's one.
Whatever you
for
can
invoice.
combine
We
would be
can,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can consolidate.
Yeah.
Mike says that's okay.
No, I.
Don't worry.
So the other thing is Mike has cleaned up the whole community preservation fund. He's gone over it. He's gotten advice from DOR that says, in these amounts, you have to include the interest and, blah, anyway, he's working with George Forestier, who's now the chair, or letting, anyway. So he's cleaned up all the language, and so here's the new, this is how it's total one-time makeup special purpose reserves. So he's figured that all out. I trust him to,
Is a road grader historical?
The
The
one we currently have might be.
Hey, open space and recreation.
Yeah.
We'll give rides on the grader.
Trying to give people greater rights.
Exactly. Okay, so there's the CPC.
Trying
and-
every angle.
And then there were the planning bylaws and then oh, I'm sorry, there's a few articles here that have not been written yet, but I know we're interested in.
For ADUs.
Well,
Yeah, that's in there.
I
I've
know-
got 3 planning board.
Remember
ones.
what got voted down last year?
Yeah.
I know they were trying to,
That's in here.
okay,
It's in here, right here.
Yeah,
and I did run through this with him back and forth before he even decided to go through with it, because there were definitely some revisions. And I felt a little better about this one. It's still obviously up for the town to vote on.
And is an associate member a voting member or no?
There-
Associate cannot vote,
Okay.
Wait.
associate member cannot.
Oh, I thought the whole point was for them to be voting members. I thought that was
Well,
the whole point of
that
it.
if a voting member moves out of town, that they're allowed to remain as a voting member
Until their term is up.
until their term is up.
Yeah.
Because they're no longer a resident, but they previously were,
I think.
or they could be appointed as an associate member. But an associate member is not a voting member.
Change this from what I said.
I don't know why they keep going after this.
Martin,
Joe
what's his name? Yeah,
Stragowski.
they want Joe.
Yeah, but Joe wouldn't even be, he still wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
become a member.
yeah,
Be appointed by a separate associate of the same board on which they serve.
so basically serve out your elected term or don't serve out your elected term, but get appointed as an associate non-voting member.
It doesn't say non-voting though, that's
But
the
but,
thing.
well, did that make me clarify that? But that's what I thought, like an associate member was a non-voting member.
well,
That's what I
it's also
understood.
not a cap term, so if it's not a cap term, you don't become.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
They should put
I
that
don't
in
know what
there,
it means.
non-voting member. And I
Yeah,
hope he understands that this will in no way allow Joe to be on that board. He's been a non-resident for coming up on a year.
Yeah, so,
I think the challenge is gonna be to counter the argument for the reason why it failed last year. Control should be in the town, which is great theoretically, but you know, if you don't have people willing
To be on boards.
to be on board to have the expertise, this is another way of looking at a solution.
It's opening a door. It's an opening a door you do not want to open.
yeah,
Because when you get special interest involved, then they can get on those committees and they're not a part of the town, and I understand there could be special interests that live in the town, but you're opening up a much wider array where special interests could get into a committee and start voting there in their favor.
Well, if you clarify the issue, whether it's voting or not voting, that issue goes away.
True. Yeah, exactly. That's why I want to, yeah, you're right. We should say not voting. Associate. Okay. I don't mean to push us along, but we're coming up on 7:30.
so there's the ADU, I'll let you guys read that, right?
It's all based on states, yeah.
Yeah. And
Morris.
here are the ones that, I do not have language for yet. I can get probably something from Donna. I don't know if you recall, but the, Upper Pioneer Valley Veteran Service District sent us something, quite a few months back. That was about giving different exemptions for veterans and whether or not, I think it's called the Hero Act, so I will get a sample language, to put in. Then Chief Bates has asked about doing a home rule, age limit. What do you call it, de-restriction? For one person, and then said, maybe in the fire department, there's a couple that need that as well, so I've got that call with the Chief Baker.
Is that, Helen's just a volunteer, like, is Howard a volunteer, or is he deputy?
Well, everybody gets paid on calls, so the
Oh, so-
question is, would
so
they
whether
be
they- okay.
covered? Yeah. Yeah, so yeah. And then, language, I've got an email into Donna for doing language for doing the way with the town caucus. Which nobody attended anyway, so,
I was
It
there.
wasn't advertised
there.
at all.
There was
you know
one
what, it was
person-
everywhere, she really had it everywhere,
I-
it was in the currents, it
Should
was,
be everywhere.
I know, well,
She did have it in the current,
yeah.
she did have it, on the board.
Yeah.
Um,
And the rest is for fun, so.
I just don't think people talked about it like they did last year because of.
Yeah.
We already knew that there were gonna be.
You
people
looked and
like-
saw it was in the currents?
She said it
I thought
was
I went
in-
back and looked.
She said it was in January. As soon as it was decided the date, it was in.
Yeah, it should have been
Should have been in there.
every single one, yeah, I agree. Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
Um. So before you close your meeting, I just would like, this is gonna be part of the select board member comments. I do think what we talked about today, that safeguard of 5% of your budget to remain in accounts, whether that's free cash, general stabilization or whatnot, that we should, as committees, vote on that at some point in time, that a vote needs to occur if they want to go below. Take more out than the 5% reserve.
Well, isn't that the same thing as voting the budget anyway?
For our committees. That our committees, when they're looking at articles and they're looking at spending money, that they have in the safeguard to not go
Oh, so use that as a benchmark.
at
right?
benchmark
Well,
exactly.
okay, but that's, okay, so that, I don't know whether you want to vote that?
It is kind of the same as just voting the budget.
But
isn't
you could put it in, we have a financial policy folder, you could
Right.
put it in there.
As part of this.
Okay,
financial-
okay, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, because, all of us might not be on this committee here, the following year, the following
Right,
year.
yeah.
it?
Somebody comes in
Volunteer, Chris.
and imagine, but imagine like new people come in and they deplete all the funding.
Yeah,
And then the town's destitute,
yeah.
right? So I just want to make sure that we're putting safeguards in place.
Yeah.
So that doesn't occur.
Reference that, the Massachusetts Municipal Association recommended as the best practice.
Exactly.
How many towns do it?
Hopefully, well, probably a lot of towns that
Town finance, and
I think we're,
a lot too.
we're A+ rated, right? I mean, I would think a lot of towns that have that. Rating probably have something like that in place.
We don't have a bond rating.
No, what is it? The borrowing rating.
Oh,
You wanna
Our
talk about
credit.
the credit?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
well, no state, no town in the fall, so we go by the general rating of the state.
right. Okay, well, if you all are okay, you can
No,
adjourn your meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn. If I'm not thinking I am.
All right, any other comments or concerns from our select board?
I had one, just, I know we almost had a fire in the highway garage.
Yes, a dump truck.
That should always make us like go back and look at whatever practices are going on to see what led to that, what
Yeah, because nobody was there, right? Is that right?
it was
Well-
lucky, but also to look at our insurance coverage, that it covers not just the building, but all the equipment in it.
Oh, yeah, our equipment's, because we have to, the fire chief, highway, everybody has to
Okay.
go through the equipment list every year.
Okay,
But yeah, we were very, very fortunate that Chris
I know.
Manor was there. Because if he hadn't been, and he hadn't noticed it was a little hazy, then that could have been a disaster,
Right.
so.
Was
Sure,
it
there's
just the
somebody-
fitting dump truck? that
It was
just-
yeah,
I hope
yeah,
it wasn't the new one.
I don't know. I don't know. I just got the.
Or maybe
report.
we can hope it was, since it's under warranty.
Yeah,
but that whole garage could have gone up.
Yeah.
right, yeah, right.
Yes,
So, like,
agreed.
did we know why it was
No.
overheated or?
No, but Chief Baker was working on his report.
Okay, all right.
Um,
Okay.
Sounds electrical, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
Um, could be, that's
Yeah.
what causes it.
Okay.
All right, good
That's
point.
all I had.
Anything?
So next meeting is the 20th.
Oh, yeah.
It's Tuesday,
It's
right?
Tuesday, April 22nd. I will not be there. Okay, I'm gonna be, I'll send you photos. I'm on my honeymoon. All right, no announcements. Next meeting, like we said, it's April 22nd on a Tuesday. I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? All right, thank you.
Yeah.